With the rising costs of restrictions against pet owners in the US from pet rent and pet security deposits, is having a pet a sign of affluence, or is it ubiquitous across the socioeconomic spectrum? That is going to be the topic that I'm discussing today on Gaia Geographica, a geography and environmental podcast. I'm also going to share with you what I just did this week, like yesterday, to get around paying pet rent. It's a really fast, easy, and arguably inexpensive process. So if you stick around to the end of the video, I will let you know how you can do that too if you are faced with pending pet rent and pet deposit. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not about to start selling Pywacket's feet pics online so she can pay rent. Now, in terms of affluence, there are a few key factors that point to having pets as being a sign of affluence, primarily gentrification. So with the continued popularity of boutique stores like dog grooming and dog boarding, these are common markers now of gentrification or neighborhood change. However, there's another side to this that is equally important and completely opposite, which is something I am well versed in, and that is in the world of animal rescue. I did my master's thesis on feral cat management in Chicago, primarily focusing on TNR, or trap, neuter, return. And I'm also the cat mom to now one rescue cat who I adopted recently. And it took me about a year to adopt again after my previous rescue cat of 16 years passed away. So it took me a year of mourning his passing to be able to adopt again. However, I am a strong proponent of adopt, don't shop. And so we have the aspect of gentrification and neighborhood change with boutique markers, dog grooming, specialty dog stores. Primarily, this is focused on the dog owners, right? You don't see a lot of fancy cat boutiques around. However, there are also a lot of rescue dogs and a lot of shelters shelters have a high number of dogs. However, I would say that the number of cats in shelters is astronomically larger. I don't have the number on the top of my head right now, but also the numbers of euthanasia rates for cats is also exponentially higher, which is also a misnomer because euthanasia is the killing of an animal for its own benefit. So if it is terminally ill, that would be a cause for euthanasia. However, common vernacular has deemed it to encompass just the general killing of cats for number management for overcrowded shelters. It is a painless death. However, there's nothing wrong with the cat for them to be deemed having to undergo killing and I refuse to say culling because it's not, this is something that could be prevented. It is, you're killing something. So, okay. These, so cat shelters, animal rescues, cat and dog shelters, they are the ones that cater to every socioeconomic class. However, it is predominantly probably the middle and working class that seek out shelters to have animal companions. Why is this? Because people place an extraordinarily and unnecessarily high amount of money to purchase an animal, and there's so much into the ethics of buying and selling animals that I won't get into in this video. However, that is a bar for a lot of people. There's also the cost involved in caring for the animal once you have it. This could also be a barrier if you are living paycheck to paycheck, for example. Are there ways around this? Are there cheap options for food? Yes. Vet care, there are low-cost clinics, especially if you are in an underprivileged area. You have access, you more than likely will have a shelter access, animal shelter access, to free and low-cost clinics. And I'm about to walk through a very large puddle, so maybe I will turn around. If you can see that, it's all flooded. So, the last time I did this, on Earth Day, I went off the beaten trail and I came back with ticks on my clothes. So that was something I'd like to avoid in the future. Which also brings me to the medical vet aspect, the vaccinations, along with spaying and neutering your pet, which I am 100% a proponent of, right? Like, what did Bob Barker say? Spay and neuter your pets. So when you go to a breeder or a pet store, which are two different things, just minimally different, but they operate off the same principle, which is capital gain. And they will not spay or neuter the animal when you purchase them instead of adopt them. So when you buy an animal, you are buying all of their parts. And this is because, breeders are protecting the breed, I believe is the argument they use. However, there are so many free-roaming cats, more so than dogs, but shelters are not hard up for dogs. So if you are looking for a cat or a dog, I urge you to go to a shelter. If you are looking for a specific breed, you can even go online and find a mixed breed that has, that specific breed if you're hell-bent on that. But anyway, so the vet care involved can get expensive. However, there are a lot of low-cost clinics if you are living in an area that caters to that, with either usually you can find, a quick Google search and you'll be able to find a low-cost clinic for your vet care. So those are a couple of workarounds to managing the costs of pet ownership. So does that mean that you have to be a yuppie in order to have a pet? No, definitely not. The option that I found to get around the pet rent policy is actually very simple. If you have a GP, either a GP, a licensed therapist, or I believe a psychiatrist, you can get what is called an ESA letter, which is an emotional support animal letter. So I did this for my cat, for Pyewacket. It was a very quick and easy process. A woman I worked with sent me the link to one company that offers this. When I researched it, it was actually way more expensive than I was anticipating. So I was like, okay. It was still less than the pet rent. However, I was like, there's got to be a workaround. So if you go to your GP, or if you have a therapist or a psychiatrist, they are able to write the letter for you, and all you would have to pay for is your copay for that visit. I have neither of these. Oddly enough, I don't have a GP, which I should. I also don't have a therapist or a psychiatrist, so I went the online route of speaking with one of the companies that provides this online. I did find a coupon code as well, so I was able to get a discount on this letter. Also, it's good for 1 year. However, I'm thinking by then, you know, hopefully I'll have a GP by then, and I can just make an appointment with my GP and be like, hello, can I get this renewed, please? However, it was a very quick and painless process. I answered a couple of questions online, and I paid the fee, and then I just received the letter this morning, and then I forwarded it over to my to the apartment complex management, so that's on file. And now I don't have to pay $50 a month in pet rent, which is really nice. That is money that I can put towards her food, you know, or stuff like that. So that is my workaround for getting past having to go through pet rent, having to pay for pet rent, which is a ridiculous expense. I mean, you don't have to pay for rent on your kids if they're under 18, and Pyewacket is less than a year old and she can't go off and make money. So pet rent is another way of trying to keep pet ownership in the affluent spectrum, opposed to across the socioeconomic spectrum. It is new. I've been renting in Chicago and around Chicago for probably about 15 years now, and this is the first year that I have encountered pet rent. So it's interesting. And so what is your experience with pet rent? This is new for me, and clearly you can tell that I am not a fan of pet rent. However, it is a fairly simple workaround, and I had no trouble at all at my apartment complex to get the fee waived. So there's a lot more in terms of the socioeconomic spectrum of having an animal. You know, a huge trope is you see, you know, a homeless man and his dog, right? I mean, how common of a trope is that? So we have the homeless man and his dog, and then we have the puppy boutiques and grooming parlors in highly gentrified neighborhoods. I mean, that is such a difference. That is such a socioeconomic difference. I mean, it's just, there's such a gamut of research and theses in that. Um, so that is my take on the socioeconomics of having an animal. Let me know in the comments, have you done the workaround with pet rent? Have you encountered pet rent yet? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Oh, remember to hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. All right, check you later.